Evening is heading in the direction we're facing now, which is upriver. So, but first things first, I just need to make sure you get your norths and your souths straightened out, because I'll be pointing out buildings as we head upriver and when we turn round and come back downriver towards Tower Bridge. So over to the left, that is the South Bank, and over to the right is the City of London on the North Bank. So it's all taken very seriously by us Londoners. Which side of the river do you live, north or south? As a rule of thumb here in the capital, anything on the North Bank on the right is a city, anything on the left is a borough. Yeah. So, the river itself, not that you'll find any Londoners calling it the Thames, we just call it the river. But it's the longest river in England, the second longest in Britain. And we're sticking in the central London area to do our cruise this evening, passing under a number of bridges. And the view over to the left, if you can see the big block that's lit up in various shades of blue, well, that's the National Theatre, one of the finest theatres in the capital. It looks far better at night when it's lit up, because they like concrete a bit too much in the 70s. But Sir Lawrence Olivier was the first artistic director of the National, as we call it over there on the left, when it opened on that site in 1976. So we have a whole bunch of buildings over there on the South Bank devoted to the arts. Smaller art galleries, the National Film Theatre. We have the British Film Institute based over there, dance company studios. They do construction for theatre and movie sets at the Max Rains Centre over there on the left. Most Londoners, however, prefer the buildings on the right, on the North Bank. You can just make out behind the trees Somerset House, built in the late 1700s, early 1800s. We had a Somerset House here on the same site in the 1500s. It was the London residence of the Dukes of Somerset. So this was all rebuilt in the late 18th century, and today it's a variety of visitor attractions in what used to be government buildings originally. So this is Waterloo Bridge that we just drove over to get us down to the pier for the cruise tonight. It's the longest road bridge across the river, and it was built in the 1940s. Like most of our bridges in central London, it replaced an earlier one. And as we pass under Waterloo Bridge, if you look just away to the right, you're looking for a big block with yellowy windows. Can you see it just there on the right? That's the five-star hotel, the Savoy, just with the yellow windows to the right, with the single flagpole. The first five-star hotel to open in London in 1889. The last word in palatial luxury, elevators, bathrooms in each room. Yeah. The Savoy Theatre is underneath the Savoy Hotel, where Pretty Woman is showing at the moment. But you go back 600 years, we had a royal palace over here on the right called the Savoy Palace. Nothing left of it at all. Keep looking on the edge of the river. Just on the right, you can see Cleopatra's Needle, 1500 BCE, so it's considerably older than London. Nothing to do with Queen Cleopatra. That was the name of the vessel that brought it over from Egypt. Over on the South Bank, on the left, you'll see, just behind a string of lights, the Royal Festival Hall with the glass atrium to it over there. That's one of the biggest concert halls in London, built in the late 40s, early 50s, for the Festival of Britain. It was a big party that was held over here in 51 to raise the morale of Londoners after World War II. You know? The end of certain items of food rationing, the end of petrol rationing. So we had a big party over there, the Festival of Britain, and the concert hall was built to commemorate that festival, just over there on the left. Over on the right, you see the modern building with the double arch, floodlit. That's built over Charing Cross Station. The architect wanted the building to resemble a train coming out of a tunnel. To the right, we think it looks more like a jukebox. But make your own mind up. And as we pass under the rail bridge into Charing Cross Station, then we get a super view of the next station door, way to the left, it's up pink, the London Eye. One of the Millennium projects, so just over 20 years old, A husband and wife team, both architects, came up with the idea of doing something fun in London to mark the millennium. All the prefabricated parts were brought across the North Sea from Holland by tug and barge, and then the London Eye was constructed horizontally over the River Thames, swung into position for the millennium. But if you look at the building sharp to the left, that kind of looks a bit blue. Can you see with all the small windows over there on the left? Well, on New Year's Eve, they do a visual display on that building, counting down 60 seconds to midnight, then all hell breaks loose here on the left. So the London Eye has become the focal point for all the New Year's Eve firework displays, with Big Ben as the backdrop. So, the London Eye, 32 capsules that take 25 people each, and one revolution. That's all you get for your money, but it does take 30 minutes. Now, you're visiting at a pretty good time, of course. I think most of you, if not all of you, will be missing a certain event that we have going on next Saturday in Westminster Abbey. But this time last year, Big Ben was completely scaffolded. It took 4 years, delayed by COVID, but the clock mechanism, the exterior stonework, the clock faces, all restored back to their original mid-19th century appearance. Now, look behind Big Ben, you'll see a gap in the buildings. The black building, incidentally, to the right is Portcullis House, offices for members of Parliament and their staff. So look between Portcullis House and Big Ben, and you'll see the two floodlit towers of Westminster Abbey. It's the only it's the only place you get this particular view. So look behind Big Ben, and just in a moment you'll see the two towers of Westminster Abbey to pop up there. Can you see? So this day in 2011, Westminster Abbey saw the wedding ceremony of Prince William and Catherine. A slightly bigger event going on Saturday. This is Westminster Bridge we're about to pass under. Yeah, our Mayor of London has made money available, and we're doing new lighting for our bridges, so this is rather nice, isn't it? Lit from underneath. The original 19th century lamp standards decorating this beautiful bridge. So this bridge opened in 1862. It replaced an earlier one. The earlier one opened in 1750, and that was only the second bridge across the river in central London. The oldest by a long margin is the one we'll be passing under later, London Bridge. But here, what a spectacular view away to the right of the Houses of Parliament. Now, you know the bridge that we just passed under? Well, when we had the old one there, in 1834, one of our most famous painters, called J.M.W. Turner, painted the outbreak of the fire here on the right that destroyed all the medieval Parliament buildings. Yeah? So everything we're looking at here was rebuilt in the 1840s and 50s in the Gothic style of architecture. The architect was a man called Charles Barry, together with his inspired designer, a man called Augustus Pugin. And we are looking over to the right, and you can see those canopies or awnings. They are green and white. I'm not sure if you can make out the colour. But the right-hand side of the facade we're looking at is the House of Commons, and they sit in green leather seats, the elected house. And then you'll see the red and white awnings, yeah, just coming up on the right, which marks the House of Lords, and they sit in red leather seats. There's a long interconnecting corridor that joins the two houses together, with the Victoria Tower sticking sharp up to the right, the tallest stone square tower in the world when it was completed in 1860, when Queen Victoria was on the throne, so hence the Victoria Tower. Some of you might remember, for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012, Big Ben was officially renamed the Elizabeth Tower. Yeah? I mean, we'll still call it Big Ben, but officially it's the Elizabeth Tower. So our two longest reigning monarchs in British history, remembered with the tower that everyone calls Big Ben, and then the Victoria Tower. Yeah? So when we have a general election next year, there will be 650 members of Parliament representing their constituency or their area, wherever it is in Britain. The leader of the Conservative Party, Rishi Sunak, took over from the ill-fated Liz Truss last year, who took over from the equally ill-fated Boris Johnson. So politically speaking, we have not been having a great time of it in 2022. Hopefully things will settle down a bit. But the leader of the opposition party is a man called Keir Starmer. So he is the leader of the Labour Party. But both houses over there on the left agree to create the laws of this nation, as they've done from this site for many, many hundreds of years, the mother of all parliaments. So when a bill gets debated over there on the left, once the two houses agree, it gets taken down to Buckingham Palace. King Charles signs it. He can't refuse to sign it. But once he signs it, it becomes an act of parliament and the law of this country. But the stone that was used back in the mid-19th century was a particularly soft sandstone that hasn't weathered too well. So there is some debate about the fact that a lot of restoration is going to be having to take place in these lovely Victorian buildings. Over to the right, St Thomas's Hospital. This part of the hospital was rebuilt after bomb damage during World War II. Big Ben, actually, even though you're looking at it, you can't see it, because Big Ben is the bell that rings the hour, a 13.5-ton hour bell, named after the Commissioner of Works, a man called Benjamin Hall, whose job it was, eventually successfully in 1849, to get that huge bell from the bottom to the top of the tower. Benjamin Hall was quite a short, tubby man. They thought the bell looked like him, so that's where the name came from. Over to the right, everyone, on the south bank, because we've turned round now, so the south is now on the right. This is County Hall, a building familiar perhaps to those of you staying in the Park Plaza Westminster Bridge. But these are old London government buildings built in the 1920s. Before we had a democratically elected Mayor of London, power was devolved amongst all the local boroughs and elected their representatives, and they sat here, County Hall. However, the Greater London Council was abolished in the 80s. The building remained empty, eventually sold in 1999 to a Japanese corporation, and now we have hotels, apartments and visitor attractions in County Hall on the right. Now the river is a tidal river. Tides are measured from London Bridge. We have two tides up and down every day. The difference between highest and lowest can be 20 feet on occasions. And if we will continue in this direction, which we are, but if we continued on for about another 60 miles, it would take us down into the estuary into the North Sea. The source of the river, some 150 miles behind us, is down in southwest England.